Hey guys, so we're gonna continue on the trigonometric ratio lesson. As you know, I'm going to be away. So let's take a look at this. Now, some of you asked me, what's the point of doing this ratio, for example, like this question in the example one? Well, the only reason is that this is the basic steps to get to what we need to know in a right angle triangle. Now, remember, this is SOHCAHTOA ratio, the sine, cosine, tangent ratio are only applicable to right angle triangle, nothing else. Okay, so the basic thing is that if you know how to set up sine ratio, cosine ratio, and tangent ratio, and then we can actually use that ratio to find the side length or the angle. Remember, it's a ratio, so despite the size difference between the two right angle triangles, the things will increase proportionally or according to the ratio. So that's why it can be used in any type of right angle triangles. So if you take a look at this one, now it says find the side AC. Well, the side AC is right at the bottom, so I'm going to put that as an X. Okay. Now it doesn't say anything about the AB. The AB doesn't have any variables that we have to look for, so we don't have to worry about this side. But just in case that you don't remember how to name them, I'm going to call this one right hypotenuse, since that's the opposite of the right angle. Now, if you don't get this, you have to go back to the notes. Okay. Now, then, since we have 20 degrees down here, that's the angle that's given to us, and that's the angle that we're going to be using. And according to that, the 6 is the opposite side of the angle 20 degrees, so I can call that opposite. Now, as we know, this one was hypotenuse, right? So then obviously, whatever that is left over is the adjacent side. Now, according to SOHCAHTOA, now, as I said before, until you get used to this, please keep writing it. Now, the only thing that has O and A is basically TOA. And this TOA means that you have tangent ratio. So tangent of an A, meaning tangent of an angle, 20 degrees. So that A is basically an angle. Do not remember that as the vertex A or the angle A. It's just an angle, any given angle to you. Okay, equals OA, so it's TOA. T represents tangent, O represents the opposite, A represents the adjacent. So it is OA, so it's opposite over adjacent. So it will be 6 over X. Now, using your calculator, first thing is that you have to find the tangent 20 degrees. When you do that on your calculator, make sure you reset your calculator, okay, by pressing the reset button or clear the memory or whichever the way. Please do that. There are 3 different modes on your calculator, and if you use the wrong mode, then you're going to get a different answer, and that's going to be wrong. So in this case, mine is tangent 20 degrees, so tangent 20 degrees, and that gives me 0.36. And then 0.36 equals 6 over X. Now, this is just a quick way of doing it. There's a logic behind it, but hopefully you can actually remember this. So if you have the unknown at the bottom of a fraction, so in the denominator, what you need to do is you just need to swap that variable with the opposite side or the other side. So this becomes X equals 6 over 0.36. And then using your calculator, don't know, I have to see too. That becomes 6 divided by 0.36, and that gives me 16.66, so I'm going to say 16.67. So the side X is then 16.67. Now, using the same thing, you can basically do the B. You can do the A and C as well. Okay, but I'm going to do example 3B. So I really want you to try the rest of the examples that I don't do it with you. Okay, I just leave it for your turn. Now, for B, I changed it. Now, hopefully you can see that I changed the C to B. The bottom is B now. The angle 90 degrees B. The top one is a C, so be really careful with it. And then I crossed out whatever that was the opposite side of the 35 degrees. And then I put the hypotenuse of the AC over there as the 7. So in this case, then you're looking for this bottom side. Okay, so I will change it. Find X. Now, how would you find X? Again, the first step is always to label each side. Now, 7 is hypotenuse. This is the angle that we're looking at or we're given. So this is this BC is the opposite. Then AB here, the X is the adjacent. Now, The opposite is not given to us. Opposite is not asked to find. So we don't care, right? We don't care. If it is not asked, then we don't care. Don't waste your time on it. So in this case, from SOHCAHTOA, remember that it is H and A. So from SOHCAHTOA, we have Ka having A and H. So C represents cosine. So cosine of an angle, which is 35 degrees, now equals A comes first, so adjacent first, so it will be X over hypotenuse, which is a 7. So then find the cosine 35 degrees, because we don't know what it is. We have to convert that into an angle, or sorry, the ratio. So cosine 35 degrees gives me 0.819, so I'm going to say 0.82. So 0.82 equals X over 7. Now, in this case is different from the other one, where you have the a number in the denominator. So instead of swapping it, all you have to do is just multiply 7 on both sides so that you will isolate the X. So multiply 7 on both, so then the 7 on the bottom will be disappearing. So 0.82 times the 7. So let's go. 0.82 times 7. That gives me 5.74. So your X, which is the side AB, is 5.74 units. Okay. So two things that you have to remember of. Okay. Remember that if you have the variable or the unknown at the bottom or the denominator, you swap it with the other side. If it is not, then you just multiply the bottom number. Okay. Now, then the next one is basically finding the angle. So when you're looking for the angle, you're going to look for something looking like this, this, or this on your calculator. And usually these involve something called second button or shift. Okay, and usually they are in an orange-ish, yellowish color. So in order for you to get to sine of this -1, and we call this inverse. Okay, so we read this to be sine of an inverse. Okay, sine theta of an inverse or sine inverse theta, but it's not sine to the power of -1. So please don't read that. That's going to be very awkward. That's going to be very, I'll say, ignorant. Okay. So please read this as a sine inverse of theta or sine theta inverse. Okay. Now, in order for you to do that again, you have to press the second and the sine button or cosine button or the tangent button, depending on what you have, depending on your calculator. Okay, when you do the calculation of sine, let's say 35 degrees, if you put sine and then 35 in your calculator, then your order will be second sine and then 35 in this case, in pretty much in the same order, right? But if it is the other way around, where you have to press a 35 and then sine to get the ratio, then you have to do the same thing in this case. So you have to then press 35, second order shift, and then sine button for that calculator, okay? So we use this to find the angle, and this symbol right there, probably the first time seeing that, now we call that theta, okay? So how I spell, or how we spell, is, I think I put it somewhere, well, probably it's not there. I can't find it. Well, it's spelled this way, and we read it as theta. Okay. So if you take a look at example 4, this is the angle that we're looking for, the theta, and the order is pretty much the same, just to label the side that you're given. Now, the hypotenuse side, which is this, doesn't even have any numbers, so I don't care. Now, this one is going to be the opposite, right? Because that's the opposite of the theta, the angle that we're looking for. And obviously this one will be adjacent. Now, hopefully you're used to SOHCAHTOA. So from the SOHCAHTOA, the one that has O and A is TOA. So that means you're using tangent. So tangent of an angle in this case is theta. We do not know what it is. Equals OA, so opposite over adjacent. And now this is something new, so pay attention to this. Since you're looking for the theta, the angle, what we have to do is we have to apply that inverse, that tangent -1, to the other side. So it becomes theta equals tangent inverse of whatever that ratio, okay? Whatever that ratio. Now on your calculator, then let's go to my calculator. So for me, I have to use a shift. Hopefully you can see the shift, and I press the shift, and hopefully you see that my tangent becomes tangent -1. See that it was tangent, and then if I press the shift, and then it becomes tangent negative 1. So for me, I pressed tangent negative 1, and it was 4 divided by 3, or 4 over 3. So 4 over 3, or 4 divided by 3 equals. And then it gives me 53. So this means that my theta, the angle, is 53 degrees. Okay, that's all that is. That's all that is. And same thing applies for, let's say, example C. So for theta, which is this, 4 is going to be the opposite. I know 8 is going to be hypotenuse for sure. According to, again, our SOHCAHTOA, the one that has O and H is so, right? So this means then sine of the theta equals opposite 4 over hypotenuse 8. Now, it's up to you whether we reduce it or not. In this case, it really doesn't matter. So then you're looking for the theta, and then you put the sine to the other side, and it becomes the inverse, and then just the 4 over 8. So using your calculator, now then shift sine, see that is sine inverse, and then, 4 divided by 8, because 4 over 8 is 4 divided by 8. And that gives me 30 degrees. So your answer in this case, theta equals then 30 degrees. Now, if you're not getting this number on your calculator, that means your calculator is not in the right mode. So please, please, please reset it, okay? Usually it has a CLR button, find it. Sometimes you have a button on the back of the calculator, find it. And then that's how you can do it, okay? Now, the last question is just the combination of all of it. So in this case, it's either up to you whether you find it hypotenuse side over there or this base side y. So sure, let's go with, I don't know, this is going to be the opposite. I will say z or y. Sure, let's go with a y. I don't know. It doesn't really matter which one I go with. So the bottom one will be the adjacent, and this one is OA, so it will be TOA, tangent. So tangent 25 degrees is then opposite over adjacent, which is y. Now tangent 25, I do not know that. As I said, you do need a calculator for this unit. Without it, you can't do anything. So 0.466, I'll say that is 0.47. So 0.47 equals 6 over y. Now, you have the denominator with a variable, so all you have to do is then you swap it with the other side. So y then will be 6 over 0.47. Using a calculator, then you get 6 divided by 0.47. That gives me 12.765, so 12.77. So y is then 12.77. Yay, so I found y to be 12.77. Then your question is, how am I supposed to find z? Well, this is a right angle triangle, so z squared is basically 6 squared plus 12.77 squared, and then you can find it, and I'm going to leave that to you, okay? Then you're going to ask me, how am I supposed to find this angle? Well, you have a right angle triangle, or any type of triangle. If you add all those 3 interior angles, it becomes 180, right? So for the angle y is then 180, subtracting 25, subtracting 90 degrees, and I think that is 65 degrees, right? So that's how you can do it, and I will leave the rest of the solution on the Google Classroom, so please take a look at them. But this is the end of the video, okay? So please practice. This is easy. It's not so difficult. You're not so used to it. That's why, okay? It is something completely new to you. You just need to get used to the format as well as the formula. It's not going to be given to you, and how to operate your calculator according to this, okay? So hopefully this works. I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.